Hello, I am Swanand and welcome to Social Science Hub. Now today we are going to talk about something very contentious. A lot of people may not like it, but it is, when you learn history, it is a very important part of history. We want to actually learn about something which is called as mythology, legends and history, their connection to history. Now history, let's keep slightly out of it for just few minutes. We are going to learn history in the future lectures, future sessions, to be honest. But let's learn about what is mythology and what is legends. Now, mythologies are something which are created as fables, stories for people, stories by which people can learn from that. They are like a preaching stories. They have something good in it, they have some kind of modus operandi like that. But mythologies are not exaggerated stories. Mythologies have a totally different world of its own. I would just give an example of you. There are no actually like made-believe one character. There are made-believe whole scenario, I would say. That is mythology. Now, example is something from the Greek mythology. Greek mythology, which where the king or the god king, as it is generally called, is Zeus. Zeus has the power of lightning, and that king resides on the Mount Olympus. Now, that is mythology. Okay, now Mount Olympus is there, but everything else is actually mythology. There is no person in the world who can yield the electricity, and many other things. But very interestingly, the point here is that the whole pantheon is created around it. Okay, be it the world's strongest man that time, Hercules, okay, or the gods, which are generally, various different gods which are there, the goddesses and their children and everything from, Neptune and whatnot. Okay, all this, Poseidon, sorry, all these are created. And Greek mythology, that's why, is one of the very important. It is very world famous. But the whole premise, okay, is wrong. It is not at all connected to the so-called worldly matter, okay, or how we live. Of course, humans always see the gods as the image of them. To be honest, nobody actually sees gods in a different manner, but we see God in the image of ourselves. So very interestingly, all these gods also look like us. It's very interesting. This is the beginning of religion. Mythology acts as a basis for religion. Every religion has their own mythology. Most of this mythology is for the world origin stories, that how the world was started. In Bible, there is a story that on 9 p.m., 7 days the God created earth. On the 6th day, God created the earth, and on the 7th day He rested. Now that is mythology as we know today. Because to be honest, we have understood the evolution, we have understood various other things. To be honest, from sound the world was created. Is also very interesting phenomena, okay, from the mythology. The point here is that mythology have no scientific basis to it. These are the stories which are made, okay, for us, okay, to follow certain things. But mythologies have a great impact. They have created certain fables and stories which are so touching, and we connect to them so much that whenever we like something, we kind of feel that it is there, it is real, and that kind of thing is very important. I'm just going to tell a story about something from the books, not children books, very famous books. Now let's actually hear it. There is actually something which is called as Harry Potter. Now Harry Potter, everybody like the story. Everybody likes that. There is a certain boy who has a charm and who has suffered everything. He's an orphan. Okay, and that boy, okay, then is a chosen one and fires certain things. But the point here is that how much you want that to be true. Okay, in the physical world, it is not true. That we have to understand. And that is the difference between a mythology and the history. Now, very difficult to understand is not mythology but legends. Now, mythologies have been nearly actually differentiated from the histories. In a lot of ways, people still believe in them. Like in India, I wouldn't say Ramayana and Mahabharata are mythology, but they are partially mythology, where the characters may not have existed, to be honest, but there is some premise which has been added later on also in the books. And those people have been there in the historical presence. Now, that's why I understand what is called as legend. Now, legend is actually dependent on a historical pretext. Now, means they actually belong to a certain age, era. in the history. Nobody can tell for the mythology which era, which age, that story actually happened. For example, it is very difficult to actually even tell today, okay, what was the age of the Puranic stories which has happened, the story of Sati, or even actually for that matter, various stories which have been given in the Bible, okay, or various stories which have been given in the Quran. Basically, the stories in the Quran are replicated from the Bible because that is a book which has been created after the Bible. But very interesting, you have to understand is that legends are not mythology. Legends are somewhere, they have a historical pretext. In a historical pretext means every character, other character exists. You actually manipulate by bringing one or two characters which are actually not part of that story or part, the history, to be honest. And you actually give that character the impetus, and that story becomes a legend. People just like that story because of that certain character. I'm going to actually tell you a character's name and you will understand what is a legend. Legend, something like Anarkali. Anarkali is a very interesting legend, and of course picturized stories have been written on that. One of the greatest Indian movies have been made on that. But in history there is no character of Anarkali. In the era of either Akbar or even later on Jahangir, there was nobody who had written ever about Anarkali. People wrote about it much more later, something like same story of Padmavat, where actually the story which actually depicted the Rani Padmini or the Alauddin Khilji story, which has been depicted now as a historical story in many movies. The point here is that those stories have been written later. They are created as legends, where a certain historical context or pretext is actually given. They say that it is there and introduce a certain character or event. Now that is manipulation, and it happens in history all the time, okay, and we have to understand in that manner. Now let's actually understand it by again Harry Potter's way. Okay, let's say something, Harry Potter's book, this first book, and which is very interesting. There is a story which is of Prime Minister of England. There is one man, Prime Minister of England, who is working in 10 Downing Street. That is his house, and he's actually also going to the Westminster because of certain thing. There he goes. Now all this part is true. He's a democratically elected person in the UK. Okay, understandable. He is the leader there. Yes. He lives in 10 Downing Street. Yes. Okay. He works in Westminster. Yes. Okay, but very interesting. The later part is actually added. There he goes, and there is one person sitting, and he is the Minister of Magic. Now all these things are added up. That is manipulation, and in such manner, okay, the legends are created. Legends like Anarkali, legends like Robin Hood, who existed, nobody knows, but that era, that age existed in the UK, which has been explained quite a bit. Like for example, Betal Pachisi, one of my most favorite kings in India, Vikramaditya. Not maybe this Vikramaditya, because there have been multiple Vikramaditya in the historical Indian history. But Vikramaditya, the story on what is called as Vikram Betal or Vetal, as in Marathi. The point here is that story has one character who is in the medieval age, who is a king. Now that part may be true, okay, because there were various Vikramaditya, and he's in the central India. That is also maybe true. But the point here is that Pachisi or the Betal is somewhere which has been an added, morphed character, manipulated. Okay, and in such manner the legends are created. Legends are created to hero worship. Legends are created to highlight a certain person, to be honest. In today's photography, I always tell this, legends are created by blurring the background. you have to focus, of course, the person, but if you blur the background, you get a better, what is called as image. That is something which is very important in history also. To create a certain character, we have legends, okay, in the world, like from Joan of Arc, okay, to whatnot in India. The point here is that in history, the legends and mythology play a very vital role, okay, and they are intermixed and intertwined, and it becomes very difficult to differentiate them. Of course, through meticulous effort, scientific effort, we have to understand, like for various actually scientific methods, for example, from languages to very interestingly C14 tests, and there are so many which I have to explain later on, okay, how we actually gather the sources and resources in history. But very interestingly, all these things are done meticulously to understand Okay, how we have to differentiate between the myths, legends, and the history. And once you do that, in history also there are various resources which kind of glorify a certain person. We have to also differentiate, okay, those later on. But that is a part where we start learning history. You have to understand what is called as legends and myths. We have legends and myths around us, from schoolyards to what is called as colleges, from the work environments. We have certain urban legends, as people are saying. We have certain myths, as people have saying. Can you find some legends? Can you find some myths? Okay, you can share it with me, okay, in the Dropbox there. How do you like this session? You just tell me. If you don't agree with anything also, you tell me. I would actually like to even give answers to that also, because I think so this is very subjective subject that we have to actually deal with. Okay, it is not pinpointed where only a word answer can be given. So yes, if you have any queries, you can of course ask me. Very interestingly, how you like this session, you of course tell. You subscribe to the channel and you also ping me, okay, there. Now, thank you for listening. I think so we are going to have so many sessions like this which will be invigorating in the future. Thanks a lot.